Cullen goes live in 2 minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Help! Hello. It's hardly a professional introduction, but hello. If one more person says to me, do you have a cold, or are you sick, or what's wrong? And don't you hate that when somebody asks you, are you feeling okay, or boy, you look tired? Don't ever say that to somebody. It's a terrible thing to say to somebody. Don't ever, 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 even if they look like, they're on death's door, don't say it. Somebody might be feeling perfectly fine. I know there have been times I'm feeling perfectly fine, and somebody comes up and says, oh, man, you look tired. You okay? I was until I encountered you. That was pretty good. That was what was that? That was wheeze talk. I'm gonna. Those of you who were able to see Fat Man D do the Star Spangled Banner with her fist in her mouth, I could like do wheeze talk. Well, welcome to another sunny Monday in November. In fact, November the 9th. We really are a year away now. Actually, less than a year away from choosing a new president. Oh, dear God in heaven. So the scary thing is I've already figured this out. There are two possible Republicans that are going to head that ticket. And I think it's Rubio or Cruz. Because you can't quite see a case for anybody else. Rubio's already showing his strength. And what's scary about Cruz, and a lot of pundits are saying this, but I think they're definitely, I'm agreeing with their assessment, that if you have still this anti-establishment tsunami overtaking the Republican Party, then once Trump and Carson, who between them hold 50% of the numbers of who people would like to see heading the ticket. So, and the only thing they have in common is that there's no way they're going to be president, okay? Either of them. But they got all that support. So who, once they implode, explode, whatever, who is in position to take their voters, the people who say, I want Donald Trump, who really think Donald Trump could be president, or Ben Carson's my guy, who is positioned to take those people who apparently represent 50% of the Republican voters? Ted Cruz. The establishment hates his guts. He's probably the most unpopular person on Capitol Hill. He doesn't care if anybody likes him. He, in terms of his right-wingedness, good God, his credentials are secure. So it worries me. It worries me. Anyway, you see the would-be President Trump on Saturday Night Live. He hosted it. Excuse me. And, I generally make a point of not watching that show because I don't think it's funny. Given what it is, if it's funny 40% of the time, I might watch it. But I don't think it rises to that level ever. So I don't watch it. I'm not, but I thought, no, Trump's, I better watch. My mistake. It was even less funny than the last time I looked. And, so deadeningly not funny that you have to wonder were the writers out to lunch? It was embarrassing. And it wasn't Donald Trump's fault. He didn't write the material. He did his part. It was the highest rated SNL in a gazillion years, apparently. That's what Donald Trump does. He delivers eyeballs. He does it for the Republican debates. He does it for Saturday Night Live. He does it and he knows it. So Saturday Night Live, knowing they were going to get this huge bump in audience, you think they would have gone nuts ensuring that they put out a just iconically good product. It was horrific. It was embarrassing. That's my take. It was embarrassing. I felt sorry for Donald Trump. So, the critic for the New York Times says it would be unfair to blame Trump for the deadness of the show. It's just horrible. It was horrible. And so if you think I was going to watch it, I didn't. I got through the first 15 minutes and said, goodbye, I can't do this. It was embarrassing. So I don't know why do people watch that show? I guess on occasion it's still funny. It was unbelievably, embarrassingly dull and totally unfunny. So Trump didn't get much for it, but Saturday Night Live did. They got an audience who they supposedly, I would imagine, turned off totally, because there's no way you would come back to a show that was that lame. Speaking of television, I noticed something funny. I've noticed this before, but I noticed something sort of specifically. I was watching, I'm embarrassed to say. Isn't it embarrassing to admit sometimes what you are sort of... you know that what we're doing when we do it is turning our brains off. It's just... and there's something there. So what was there? I'll admit it. What was there on my TV last night was a show on CBS that I think is so silly, it's incredible. And it's supposedly about a Secretary of State. It's called Madam Secretary. Have you ever seen that? Oh, God, these shows are so awful. Anyway, I was watching it like I watched Saturday Night Live with my eyes at half-mast and, it's maybe 1/3 of my brain cells still firing. And I couldn't help but notice that when commercial breaks came, there were only 2 products that are being advertised on a prime time broadcast network show. Who's watching prime time broadcast networks? I'll tell you who's watching it. You can tell by who the advertisers are. Old people. Old people. And so what do you sell? What advertisers want that audience, want those eyeballs? Yeah, drug companies. So you're inundated with Cialis ads, and Viagra ads, and I'm down with Crestor, and all this. And every once in a while, a car, an automobile commercial. But that's about it. But then there was an ad, you maybe have seen it, for a new pharmaceutical. They are not, boy, Big Pharma. Hey, I want to tip my hat to you guys. You're amazing. You probably kill as many people as you help, but man, are you making money. So here's Big Pharma now. They have a new pill out. I forget the name of it. Is that the one with the funny name like Trulexia or something? I don't know. Whoever comes up with the names, that's a job I want. So this pill is for constipated people. But not just any constipated people. This is a niche constipation drug. And it is because so many people are on opioids. Huh? They flat out say in the ad, opioid-induced constipation. So in other words, if they're already selling you one of their, now we know, dangerous opioids, which hook so many people, turn them into heroin addicts, and then kill them. So while you're taking the opioids, the first thing you notice about them is that, yes, they help your pain, and then they completely make it impossible for you to take a shit. As simple as that. It's one of the reasons I absolutely cannot stand them. So, now there's an actual prescription drug. Take your Vicodin and then take this to ameliorate the side effect of one of the most troublesome side effects of the opioid. So they sell drugs to cure what their drugs are causing in your body. It's shameless. I can't even believe that they would come out with such a drug when it seems quite clear that what needs to happen is people need to stop taking opioids. Because we now know they lead to terrible trouble for an awful lot of people. An awful lot of people. They hook people. It's heroin in a pill. So if you're taking heroin in a pill, then there's a new thing so that you can poop. Unbelievable. You know that I have this thing where I like to, sometimes this is embarrassing to say, I'm bored by life. It's a terrible thing to say because there's so much around us always. It is anything. It's a shame to be bored. But I'm bored. I'm often bored by the sameness of our lives, the things we do every day, the routine, the fact that when you drive out of your garage or whatever, that you always turn the same direction, and then you make the next turn and the next turn. Something about that numbs me. So, and has forever. I mean, ever in my life. So I long ago dreamed up, and you people know this, I've admitted it, I put a historical figure in the car with me, in my imagination, and I see everything through, it's almost always Ben Franklin, because I just love him. And I see everything then through his eyes. And through those new eyes, everything becomes astonishingly interesting. So that a stop sign becomes interesting. The fact that everybody stops becomes interesting. What people are wearing is interesting. The fact that I will drive and get from here to there in 10 minutes in what in his time would have taken a day. Stuff like that. So it makes things interesting. Why did I start talking about this? I can't even remember. But I often think that it's at times like that, like if Ben Franklin were on the couch with me last night watching that, he would have been, I would have had a difficult time explaining how we got to this sad state of affairs. The pill popping thing, and then popping the pills to ameliorate the negative results of popping the first pill that you popped. And all of this being sort of the drug dealing, the drug dealers, big pharma, just right out there on your TV screen, let into your living room with your children there. That's what a drug dealer looks like. Doesn't look like some shadowy figure hanging around your child's playground. No, it's right on your television screen. Okay, I don't remember what I was saying. I'm sorry. I'm in one of those Monday moods. Okay, what we got here? We got... Oh, dear, my son is the one who clued me onto this. He said, Mom, did you know the war on Christmas has already begun this year? I said, no. He said, yes, it has. Starbucks. Starbucks is under attack by Fox News for the coffee cups it's using for the Christmas season. Now, I'm looking at them. They look pretty festive to me. They're totally red. And then they got their green lady person on them. That's green and red. Reminds me of Christmas. But apparently, in the past, Starbucks has had a Christmas tree, a snowflake, some other graphics on the cup. So there's nothing particular. Anyway, there are actually people now, and Fox News is covering this and trying to make this, that they have red coffee cups, into an attack. Here is the lead-in from the reporter. Oh, no. They're quoting someone. Do you realize that Starbucks wants to take Christ and Christmas off their brand new cups? Well, I'll tell you. And then Starbucks made it worse by coming out with what sounds like a PC mealy-mouthed kind of thing. Instead of saying, what? It's red! Red! It's Christmas! Red! Oh, or you think we're celebrating, Mao. You think it's a red communist? You think Starbucks is going commie? Red. It's red for Christmas. Starbucks responds with a statement explaining that the cup was designed, quote, to create a culture of belonging, inclusion, and diversity. Oh, that'll get them. That'll get them. And what do you mean the cup was created? It's a red cup. Both sides in this make me puke. The cup is meant to be a blank canvas that encourages our customers to tell their Christmas stories in their own way. At this point, Ben Franklin has gone off quietly and shot himself. All right. Well, thousands of shoppers have signed a petition online demanding that a Christmas tree or something like it be put on the cup. Jeez. You know, you can't make it up. You can't make this stuff up. Henry writes, Lynn, other than a few minor chuckles, I agree. Saturday Night Live was terrible. The writing has been lacking for years now. Usually their Christmas show and their season finale are good, but that's it. And there's no way Ted Cruz is going to win the nomination. If he does, Hillary wins. Well, I absolutely agree. He is often too far right for even the Tea Party folks. Rubio is going to give Hillary a race. Okay, I'm inclined to think it's Rubio too, and I agree it'll be a good race if it is. He does represent he represents conservative republicanism without seeming like a candidate for Western Psych. So maybe that's what it'll be. Good God in heaven. All right. So Ben Carson is the man of the hour, and gee whiz, the Wall Street Journal added to his woes this weekend. The Journal, for God's sakes. All of these stories he's told that no one can corroborate. I mean, you get a critical mass here, and you have to realize that here's a guy who has really embellished his life story. And what's fascinating about it, I heard someone call it the Brian Williams effect. Because Brian Williams lost his job because he embellished situations that were by themselves interesting or dangerous or whatever and needed no more embellishment. The reality was just fine and dandy. And it could be that I don't know, Carson has the same problem. I mean, he came out of poverty and became a surgeon and all this stuff. But the stories he has told to embellish his, American success story, one after the other is proving to be incorrect. I mean, or fanciful. Does that take him down? Can he turn it on the media, which is what he's trying to do? I don't know. Not when you got the Wall Street Journal media coming after you, too. I seriously doubt it. Was there a new one? Oh, the newest one, the one they broke, this journal, is in that horrific year of 1968. He was in high school in Detroit, and Dr. King was assassinated. And anyone who was alive then recalls that all hell broke loose all across this country. Cities burned. There were riots. I remember standing on the roof of my apartment in Evanston, Illinois. I was at Northwestern at the time. And Evanston is north of Chicago. And I was looking south, and you could see smoke rising from South Chicago. And at his high school, he says, it was no different. The kids started rioting, and the white students were getting beaten up. And his story is, he had, being the good little student he was, he had a key to the biology lab because, whatever, he was like a trustee. And his story is that he saved or protected some white students by pulling them into the biology lab and hiding them there while all hell was breaking loose in the halls. That's a great story if you want to paint yourself as, first of all, trustworthy and good and all that kind of stuff. But here again, no one at that school can recall ever hearing that before, that anything like that had happened. And you can't keep having these things piling up that no one else there ever saw or heard. No white student he protected has come forward. None of these other people involved in all these other stories. It's really something. The Baltimore police can't find any example of when he was supposedly held up at a Popeyes. Yale University can't find any place where his picture was in the newspaper with him being called the most honest student. Nobody can ever be found for these stories. So, and then he has the gall to say no one has had the scrutiny that he has had. They didn't do this to Barack Obama. What? I spent years dealing with the incoming about Barack Obama. For God's sakes, Donald Trump, the guy's trying to, elbow his way past. Donald Trump spent years saying that Obama wasn't even an American. Obama couldn't even, no one said Carson isn't an American. Obama with the birth certificate, with Reverend Wright, with that Ayers guy, with his autobiography, with being parsed, every square inch of it. My God. It didn't happen to Barack Obama? Are you effing kidding me? Wow. These guys who like to say they're so tough, man, I've never seen more whiners. Real whiners. The GOP. Weren't they the party of personal responsibility? And now they're saying, well, I meant, and you're asking two tough, gotcha questions. And, there's another debate tomorrow. Oh, God. Do we have to? Yes, we do. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about something that's happening in the world of football, or not really football. It's on the sports page of the New York Times. It's also on the front page of the New York Times. Two stories. I guess one is more of opinion, and it has to do with what's going on at the University of Missouri. There have been incidents at that university of a racial nature, and the feeling of the African Americans on campus, and many white people as well, is that the university administration has done next to nothing in response to these events and to a climate that African American students say is less than welcoming. They feel exceedingly marginalized. It's a big school. There's some 30-some thousand people on campus, and 7% of them are African American. Of course, if you take the football team, the percentage of African Americans goes up markedly. As a matter of fact, it gets up to 50%. So 50% of the football team is black, 7% of the student population is black, and the students started protesting. One student started a hunger strike, saying that he said he wasn't going to eat until the president stepped down. What has happened is that the football team, the black members of the football team, that'd be half the football team, have also said that they're done. They will not practice. They will not play until the president steps down. Now, what's interesting about that is they have clout, right? They have clout. If they don't show up next Saturday, for the game against, I think it's Brigham Young they're playing, then contractually, obviously, they forfeit the game. But they also have to pay BYU $1 million. So there's $1 million right out the door. Plus, if you don't have the game, you don't do all the sales that the university pulls in. So for the football players, those black football players to join, and at great risk to themselves, because you got to figure they're all on scholarship, right? So you take their scholarship away, and there goes their education, there goes their, any potential sum a few of them might have to get to the NFL, whatever. But what's so great about it is here are players putting their self-interest above, and also because black players often do not have anywhere near the same college experience as just a regular, ordinary old black student, to show that they are in solidarity with the more marginalized, not the glorified. They're glorified football players, but the marginalized students, they're standing with them. What's amazing is that a lot of the white players have joined them. What's amazing is that the coach has joined them. The coach. This guy could easily lose his job, obviously. So you have an insurrection. This is a coup. This is an attempt to take down the president of a huge university, the University of Missouri, because of his apparent tone deafness to minority students on campus. And William Roden, writing in the New York Times, says that he finds this protest exhilarating because it is the most high-profile example to date in a continuing revolution in which athletes who drive the multi-billion-dollar college sports machine have begun to use their visibility and clout to demand change. And what makes this one so much more extraordinary is that it is not about the business of sports. It's not about they want compensation, or it's not about labor issues or NCAA rules. It is purely about justice and showing solidarity with the less celebrated black students on campus. So what's wonderful about this to me is the joining of the white players and the coach and the athletic director. Incredible. the coach has written on Twitter in support of the players. That is a profile in courage, I believe. I wonder, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. You got one student putting his life on the line because he hasn't eaten in a while, and he will not. And then you've got players putting their, who knows what, their education, whatever, on the line. You got a coach putting his career on the line. You got a lot of people, and all saying, and the faculty apparently walked off this morning and also said they will not hold classes tomorrow, and instead they're having a teach-in. So you got the whole university. I'm sure there are people that are not into it, but you've got a university shut down because of the perceived failure of the president of the university to react with any sense of importance to what have been some racist situations that have occurred on campus. So I think that's pretty cool. And I wish him luck. Ansel writes about the war on Christmas. Speaking of the war on Christmas, rather on the war on Christmas shopping, quite a few stores are signing on the pledge to stay closed on Thanksgiving or the day at Black Friday. I want to tip my hat to REI. They're the first company I'm aware that said they would not open on the Friday after Thanksgiving. They said everybody should just go outside and, because they're an outdoors. Go outside. Don't spend your money. Be with your family. Take a hike. Whatever. Nordstrom, Ansel writes, has taken this a step further and pledged to not even decorate their stores for Christmas. What? Oh, until Friday the 27th. Oh, until... Well, I'm not going to... Big deal. I mean, that's the way it used to be, right? You didn't decorate the store until after Thanksgiving. Now stores are decorated before Halloween. I mean, I saw Christmas decorations up in Squirrel Hill. God, already. Nordstrom stated, we like the idea of celebrating one holiday at a time. Happy Thanksgiving. I can get... Yeah, that's great. If there's some... Oh, Nordstrom, you're going to get some Christian picketers. Oh, boy. War on Christmas. Another weird story in the New York Times today had a picture of Ben Roethlisberger on the, just a little one. It showed him on one of those carts leaving the field of play, as he did yesterday, yet again. And they focused, and then you get to the sports section, and you see two pictures of Ben. One in September when he got carted off the field, and one yesterday when he got carted off the field. And they use him to talk about these carts, the injury carts, that now are very visible in football games as these modern-day gladiators are literally carted off one after the other. They specifically mention a game I happened to watch this year. It was a Packer game, and in I think it was one quarter, 3 players. Play was stopped while a player was carted off the field, and then play resumed, stopped. Another player carted off the field, play resumed. Another player injured badly enough for the cart to come back. 3 in a quarter, I believe. They said that was that. And as I watched it, I thought, I remember now why I said I just don't enjoy this game anymore. This is ridiculous. But they point out in the article that these carts used to be used really for advertising purposes as well. They used to resemble, they often had helmets on their roof. So it was made to look like a big helmet on wheels. And how now the carts are totally stripped down. They don't be why? Because in fact the NFL now does not want to draw attention to the fact that their employees are being carted off the field at a rate that we've never seen before. So the New York Times article calls them the overlooked workhorses of the underbelly of football. And the carts now they've got no advertising on them, although I see a little advertising on one when Ben was carted off. It has nothing to do with the Steelers. It's of course UPMC, which does make more sense, I guess, because now we've gone from a playing field into perhaps an operating room, which is what happens to a lot of players. So the NFL, I mean, who would think? The NFL not wanting people to associate it with all of this. These carts are getting smaller, and it's like, don't look. John Branch in the New York Times writes it this way. And I've talked about this before, how I find the whole thing so sickening. We've been through this so many times, and he describes it. It happens often enough that carted off is football jargon, familiar enough even to fans to need no further explanation. When an injury is... We got a call. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
I was just calling about, hopefully you're somewhere near that topic. But wasn't it just a few weeks ago that we were being told that we were terrible people for being offended by all these things? That these Fox News people it's okay if they're offended by a cup?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Well,
that never. We don't see like big long editorials on how terrible they are for being offended by everything under the sun. But that's always said about liberals.
I know. Well, yeah. Well, liberals are offended by, both
sides are offended by various ththings.
By various things, right? And some of them are, perception and reality. I mean, I don't know. Republicans, are offended by things that we might not even acknowledge as existing. For instance,
in this case, it's a red cup.
Like a red cup.
Right. Yeah. We were offended when police beat people to death, like repeatedly.
Yeah.
We weren't supposed to be offended by that, but it's okay when they're offended by a red cup.
Yeah. You got a problem with that?
I can see the comparison is very similar there. All right, that was all.
Okay, well, thank you. Well put. Appreciate it. Bye. So, here's how he writes about what happens when a player is injured. And we all know what happens, but here it is, in writing. When an injury is serious enough to warrant a cart, fans sometimes stand and players often kneel. Tempered applause follows a loaded cart as it starts downfield. Acknowledgement from injured players, even the slightest wave or a pointed finger from someone who's clinched to a backboard, brings relief and cheers. The cart disappears into the stadium tunnel. The games resume in all their violent pageantry as if nothing has happened. Right. That's the way it works. And sometimes the silent periods go on a long time, right? And then when they finally get the guy into the cart, I talked about it at the baseball player got carted off. That really was, I thought, scary. But there's something, I don't know. I think the fact that these guys are carted off left and right, and you can't even, every team that's struggling, somebody will say, well, we're so injured. We got some of our best players are not playing. Yeah? It's called football. That is football now. A team that somehow manages not to have its best players injured, I can't imagine. I suppose they can go all the way. It's unbelievable. Let's come to that. The sports section covering hunger strikes and the carts. Dave writes, I'm not into soccer, but I watch some of the World Cup, and they don't even stop the game when someone gets injured. They just run out there with a stretcher and drag them off the field with guys running all around them. No farting around, just get them off the field and let the game continue. That's the way to play the game. Yeah, but really? That's what they do? Because I'm not into soccer, but the times I've watched it, it seems to me that there's a lot of play acting going on when some of their players go down. I mean, a lot of, I've suffered grievous injury myself. I have found myself in the interior of ambulances on more occasions than you would. I can think of 4 offhand. I am somebody who knows what a crushed bone feels like, what a ripped apart ligament feels like, what a ripped apart this and that feels like. I know these feelings myself. And when I see these big, tough guys rolling around, holding their knees and their feet and their shoulders and their hands and bellowing, sometimes I think with the soccer players, it really seems absurd. Now, you might be hurt, but I don't know. I suppose it's an effort to get a flag, generally speaking. The only time I remember screaming in pain was when I crushed the shoulder injury, and I didn't start screaming till I was in the ambulance and it started moving. Then every bump in the road, every little teeny weeny pothole caused such excruciating pain. I thought I was going to pass out. That's the only time I have. So sometimes these things, they smart a bit, no doubt about it. But to get to the point where you're like writhing around, I don't know. What? Okay, this is spam. Never mind. And I still have one more football story. Before I ever came to Western Pennsylvania, I knew of one college in this part of the country, and I always just loved the name of it. I don't know why, and I guess it was pointed out a lot. Why would I know it? Slippery Rock. Slippery Rock. What I didn't know was that the reason I did know is because Slippery Rock is considered such a funny name for a college that back in 1959, at the University of Michigan, which is, that'd be a football school, right? University of Michigan. The PA announcer, who at certain points in the game would come on and give scores of other football games going on that would be of interest perhaps to the Michigan crowd, So while he's doing, other, let's say, Big Ten games, which is the conference Michigan's in, one particular PA announcer, a guy named Steve Filipiak, 1959, he sees Slippery Rock. And he thinks it's the funniest name. So after he gives Notre Dame and, Ohio State and the big powerhouse team scores, he also says, and Slippery Rock leading, whatever, Shippensburg. And the crowd, reacts to it because it's funny, I guess. Anyway, this guy starts creating a tradition by always doing the Slippery Rock score. And the Michigan fans, nothing is ever said about this, but it turns out that after the years, the Michigan fans wait for the Slippery Rock score. And this catches on. So that at home games for Texas, Alabama, Auburn, other universities, Slippery Rock scores are always given over. And it makes no sense because Slippery Rock is not a big, school. But this University of Michigan tradition has grown and grown so that in 1979, perhaps you know this, I did not, it's before I came here, the athletic director for Michigan calls Slippery Rock and says, how about you guys play your home game in our stadium, one of your home games in our storied stadium when we're on the road? So, wouldn't that be cool? Well, yeah, they thought it sure would be cool. So in 1979, Slippery Rock played Shippensburg at what's called the Big House. And do you know that 1969 game, Slippery Rock, Shippensburg, there were 61,000 plus in the stands, which is way more than the combined student populations of both schools that were playing. That crowd is still it'll hold the record forever, I suppose, the biggest record attendance for a Division II football game. Well, because their stadiums aren't going to, they don't have stadiums that are going to fit 61,000. And Slippery Rock went back and played another game there in, when was it, last year? Yeah, last year they played Mercyhurst. So this is something that's happened. So just because Slippery Rock seemed so funny to one guy in 1959, it gave rise to this wonderful sort of craziness. And I'm looking at a cute picture of the Slippery Rock football team standing in Michigan Stadium, which, is like one of the hugest stadiums football stadiums in the world, I would think. Is there any that's bigger? I think it is maybe Penn State's. I think it might hold over 100,000 people. I mean, it's bigger than a lot of NFL stadia. So, Margie said she went to Slippery Rock. Hey, all right. What's it called? The Slippery Rock what? The Rocks? What do they call the team? I don't see it anywhere in this article. But what a cute story that I did not know. And if you guys knew it, I'm sorry for wasting your time then. But I didn't know it. The one time I've been to Slippery Rock twice, both times to do stories on the same student. And one of those stories, I did on him because he was on the football team. So, I mean, I saw the stadium there, and man, you couldn't get 6,000 people in there, I don't think. The reason I did a story on this guy, what an amazing character, is because he had no arms, and he was on the football team. He was the kicker. He was second string, but they let him on. And he didn't need any charity, I assure you. He was also on the soccer team, which makes more sense because you can't use your hands. And he was from the UK, so soccer really was his sport. But I'm blanking on his name now, God. He was born with no arms. There were sort of some little finger-like things coming out of his shoulders. And he was one of the thalidomide babies. Thalidomide was another drug that the pharmaceutical companies came up with, and it was supposed to help women who were having nausea during their pregnancy. And his mother had taken thalidomide, and when he was born with no arms. This did not get in his way at all. I was so blown away. The first time I went to do a story with him, I was so blown away I couldn't see straight. It brought to mind the politically correct term differently abled because there was nothing disabled about this guy. Nothing. I stayed with him throughout the day. I watched him from the time he got up in the morning. I watched him brush his teeth. Think about it. How'd he brush his teeth? I watched him take the cap, a little twist cap, off a toothpaste tube, squeeze just the right amount of toothpaste onto his toothbrush. I watched him brush. I watched him make scrambled eggs and bacon and eat them. There was nothing this kid could not do. He just did it with his feet. His feet were his hands. And so his toes and his were so, he could, no problem. He grabs with his one foot the toothpaste tube, takes it off of the other, presses it on. And to make his breakfast, he hoists himself up on the counter, and he's breaking eggs just perfectly, breaking eggs with his toes, and then scrambling the eggs and doing the bacon, and then eating with his feet as absolutely no different than we do with our hands. He was amazing. And you know what else? He was on the swim team. Now, that seems like that would be a drawback. But he was competitive in the butterfly, for instance, just using his powerful legs. He had a lot of records at the world, the Special Olympics, obviously. Remarkable, but he was the only Slippery Rock football player I ever did a story on. I can't imagine what he's doing now, but nothing got in that guy's way. Football. Chuck writes, something new this year on the football field is the newly emphasized penalty called targeting. Oh, no! Come on, you're kidding me, right? Because targeting is that politically correct term. I see this more on college games, but in targeting, a player is penalized for using his helmet as the first point of contact in a tackle. Okay. And if a player is guilty of this, he's immediately ejected. What bothers me is that as he is removed from the field, he takes what only can be described as a victory lap as he enters the locker room, and he incites the crowd. I've seen this a half dozen times this season, very distasteful. I don't know if it's on the pro level. Targeting. Well, that's getting, the word target has never enjoyed such extraordinary usage. You know, people are targeted when they have negative reactions to words and statements and things. That's happening on college campuses. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get all these. Okay, never mind. Never mind. So, is that it? Can't see a damn thing. Yeah, I think it is. Oh, and as to Slippery Rock, where it got its name, the article here says it was because of a slippery rock, for God's sakes. Yeah, I mean, why would it's the story goes that around the time of the French and Indian War, colonial soldiers wearing heavy boots were able to cross a creek. That's the way we say it around here. A creek. A creek that runs through the town, while the Seneca Indians in their moccasins could not. So the creek was named, in their language, Wetcha-cho-cha-cha-cha-cha-poka-cha-cha-cha-po. It's like 20 words long, 20 letters long, which translates to slippery rock. There you have it. Okay. I think we're done. I just got a lot of things. Margie, when I see you email me so many things, and I know that they're just, okay. Yeah. I went to Slippery Rock the same year the swimmer did. Oh, so you knew him. Or knew of him. Yeah. Amazing, huh? He could do, he dived, too. Jeez. He was just amazing. Cocky son of a gun. But then, wouldn't you be? He had a specially outfitted car, so he could drive. But, yeah. Thalidomide. Okay, I do think I am done. Tomorrow my sister Susan joins us. And, I guess that's it. Oh, God. And then tomorrow night, some of us have to watch. It might be good. It might be good with things heating up. I don't know. And the press cowed into asking little questions like, what was your favorite subject in school? I'm out of here. Bye-bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.